Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We are live at City Hall. And look at that fancy car. Jeez Louise. Here, we'll show you. My Lord, that's a nice car. That is one nice vehicle. Looks like a yellow Corvette. What a beautiful car. What a beautiful, beautiful car. Look at that. Holy moly. Don't get any better than that. We're going to now go in to City Hall. There's the hours. I'm going to see if I can straighten this up a little bit. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This special meeting. It's a special meeting tonight. We're going to find out how special it is, actually. We're going to find out how special it is, actually. Whoa, looks like we got a full crowd for a special meeting that they did not put the post out via the link for people to watch. No one. You had to come especially here to this town for this link. Look at, whoa, look at all these people suddenly. Look at all these people. Look at. There he is. How are you, sir? Good to see you for this special, special meeting. What's that? Yep. He did. Wow. A city councilman cussing you out like that? Wow. Go figure. Go figure. That a city councilman would cuss you out. That's not very nice. That's not very nice. That's not very nice. Is that who that is? Oh, I got my hat earlier from him. Thanks.
Oh, now he's being nice. So
He ain't gonna be nice to anybody.
We're here for a special council meeting. I'm gonna go around and take roll call. Don. Barb. Here. Chuck. Here. Liz. Here. All right. Okay. We have a few people here that you may not know this evening. Christian Brunner, our attorney.
He's got one.
Gary Killington, Board CPA. Okay. The way we're gonna probably end up doing this is I'll entertain a motion to do the first meeting, the first hearing. Then I'll entertain a motion to get out of it. And entertain a motion to get back into the second one that's listed. And we'll do that right on down through there. So, I'll entertain a motion for, public hearing to open and amend the 2024-25 budget.
I'll make that motion.
And I will second. I have a motion and a second to open and amend the 24-25 budget. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. You all have, you you all of you.
Okay. We can be southern.
I have the copy in front of me there. Gary?
Sure.
Go ahead. That one's up there right now?
Yep.
Everybody have their mics on tonight? Yep.
So, what we're doing with this budget, there's several budgets we talked about tonight, so it's important to try to keep straight which ones we're talking about. Today, this one, at this time, is the current year budget that will end in 19 days. So this is for the 24-25. Back in last June, we passed the budget, and then, obviously things have changed. And during the year, we've also had in January, we did a mid-year budget, we looked at it, and saw what we were in comparison to what we thought we were going to be. And then this budget is the final amended budget for the fiscal year 2025. So what we're doing now is just amending the budget to reflect a lot of the expenditures that we had already approved, that we just need to get into the final budget. Also, as you're aware, what happens is the state law requires that we don't over our budget by departments. And so what we're doing is making sure we're putting in what we anticipate. Now, I understand, I've made my best guess, but it's kind of an interesting thing. They want us to amend the budget year to the end of the year to talk. So I'm making my best guess of what I think we're going to do with it for the last month, 45 days. And so I've had to put a little extra in just to make sure if there's an expense that comes in that I'm not aware of. You know, if we have something that happens that we have to get some tires on the backhoe because something happens or something like that, you know. So I put a little extra just, you know, for just in case something might happen. So that's what this budget is. It's just really just making the budget equal to what we've already approved throughout the entire year of 19. Also, what I've done with this budget is we've had several funds out. So there's a general fund, then there's a capital projects fund, we have a debt service fund. We also have an LBA fund, local building authority fund. A lot of those we needed when we had the 13 debts, when the cities combined. There were 13 debts that came together many years ago, and it was about 3 years ago that we had a plan for about 5-6 years, and we had figured out how we were going to get all of those paid off at once. So if you remember, we went through this process and we paid off all 13 debts all at once, and which was an amazing feat. It got the city out of all the debts that the city had went away at that point. And then we have a new debt, of course, with the new water treatment plant, because that's so expensive we couldn't fund that ourselves. So we had to go in debt to get that new plant. But because of all that, we don't need a debt service fund anymore, and we don't need a local building authority and a lot of capital projects fund. And so those funds actually had cash, but the source of that cash was the general. You take the money from the general fund, put it over in the debt, and make the debt payment. And so it had extra there. And so what I've done with this final budget also is moved a lot of those funds back into the general fund, and in the attempt to close those funds because we don't need those funds anymore. Hopefully we will never need those again. Hopefully we never have that many debts and all that kind of stuff that we had before. So that's also in this budget. So that might be a little different than what we've seen in the past, is because we're just trying to close those and bring back into the source of where it originated from in the first place. Just bring it back in. So any questions on this budget? It's really just making it what we've already, what I anticipate we're going to have for the full year.
make a motion that we approve the final amended budget for 2024 and 2025.
We have public hearings.
Say it again?
Well, yeah, we have a public hearing scheduled,
Okay.
so we still have to go into that before we
Yes.
actually.
Anyone from the public?
The mayor, if we could lay a couple ground rules, where we got a big crowd,
Okay,
if you don't mind me taking a second.
do that, please.
So, members of the public, it's great that you're all here, and the city council does welcome your input. Just a couple of reminders, if you do wish to be recognized and heard, you're asked to keep your points that you want to make to the specific budget or topic that's being, for which the public hearing is open. In other words, it's not an open mic night, it's a chance to comment on the budget or the amended budget for this last year, depending what we're at. And then we typically, historically, in a meeting like this, if we have a lot of people that want to speak, we'd ask that you keep your comments down to about 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, the mayor may ask that you finish up and let the next person speak. It's also important at a meeting like this that if you're going to speak, you stand up and come forward, and once the mayor recognizes you, please state your name clearly so we can have that on the record. And then if people, so we'd ask that you come forward and stand so that your comments can be recorded. Please don't just shout from the back. Please come forward and stand and wait for the mayor to recognize you. If for some reason, for mobility reasons, you can't come forward, raise your hand, wait for the mayor. But this is not a meeting where it would be appropriate to shout out comments from the hall. So with those few ground rules, I think we're good to proceed, Mayor.
Yes.
Hi, my first time. I'd just like to ask, my name
Come
is.
forward so we can get you
Yeah,
on.
I have a mobility issue. I
Oh, okay,
apologize.
all right. Okay.
I was wondering if I could ask a clarifying question about the general fund and the proposed increases. Do the proposed increases then come from the original general fund? Anything that you moved into a general fund? Is that how that works?
Which budget you want to talk about?
The one that you had just
Okay,
submitted.
yes, so the overages,
I'm gonna sit down. Do you mind?
yeah, please do. Please clarify what you're asking me. What do you
It's
mean
just a
overage?
clarifying question. I thought that you mentioned that you were gonna move some stuff into the general budget. And I was
Yes.
wondering if any increases that, like, for example, in wages or things like that have been proposed would be paid for and allocated from that general budget.
Not from last year. That, all I'm doing is moving the money back into its original source.
And so the original source,
Would have been the general fund over to a debt service. So what we used to, what sometimes you do with debt is you try to keep that all separated. When we had 13 debts, we needed to have a place where we keep track of them all. So we put all those debts over here, but it doesn't have any way of putting any money in. So what
Right.
happens is the general fund has to put the money into it,
so you.
and then it pays it. Well, we had extra money once we paid all those off, and we said, okay, we don't need to keep that in there anymore. Because it has no use, we have no debt, we can't use it up. So let's bring it back to the general fund cash. So I'm just bringing the cash back over.
I see. And so that can't be allocated to take care of some of the increases that have been proposed.
For last year's increases, we already had a balanced budget last year,
I see.
so without that.
Okay,
So I was just trying to get those back in.
thank you. It was just a clarification.
No, that's a great question, because it is confusing with all these funds and where the money goes around. And government accounting makes us do it that way.
I see.
But since we don't have those debts anymore, it's like, let's get rid of that and bring it back to where we don't have it just sitting over there doing nothing.
Thank you.
So, at our first budget meeting, we were talking about mentions or you mentioned that we were in the red.
Yes.
And so is that still the case for our fiscal year coming up? We would still be in the red or?
So we're gonna talk about that in the next.
community, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion is we close the public hearing for the 2025 and 2026 budget. 24 and 25. Okay. I already made that.
We know what you mean. A motion is second to approve the amendment to the 2024-25 budget. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? That motion passes.
Motion that we go into the public hearing for wage increases.
A motion is second to go into the public hearing for the wage increases. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Motion passes. Got something up there, Gary?
I do. I'm trying to make things so I can see it too. And, okay, so this public hearing is required. A couple of years ago, the legislature required that if a department head, a council, city manager, those people, if they got an increase, they should have to have a public hearing to show what the increases are. So what we've got is we've got 4 people that fall into that category. And so we're required to show you what this is for, so it's clear. This isn't last year's, the one we're in right now. This is what is proposed into the new budget for next year. This is what's proposed. It hasn't been finalized, it's proposed. But we have to show what we're looking at here. And so, what we have is, Councilman Jesse Stewart, he's at $27.91, an increase of COLA, the COLA, as you're gonna see in the next year's budget, is 3%, plus $4.12 per hour, which gives an $8,840 increase, moving him from $63,202 to $72,042. Then he also has council wage, but that doesn't change. That's not what's changed, but I have to show that. Our department heads, we have 3 of them that are getting it. So our police chief, Sam Leonard, is currently at $41.72. He's increased by the 3%, as we just mentioned, the COLA increase, plus $5 per hour, moving him from 93,953, adding the 14,004, putting him at 108,008 is what his wage would be. Cody Valdez is our public works. And he is currently at $27.61 with an increase of 3%, plus 50 cents per hour, moving him from, so he currently is at $57,428, moving from, increasing 2,756.83, moving to 60,185.63. He also gets $250 a month for being fire chief, but that's not being increased. The other one is our department head, is our judge. And he gets a 3% increase, which means it's currently at $19,497. He'll get a $584.91 increase, bringing him to $20,081.91. The issue with the judge is that the state mandates will have to pay him. We don't get a lot of say in that. We actually get a letter from the judicial department and tells us what he has to be in a certain range. Even if he's outside of that range, if we give a COLA increase to everyone else, he also has to get it. So currently our judge is outside of his normal range, but because we were proposing the 3% raise, he would also get a 3% raise. Now, also understand that even if his case is dropped, his wage cannot drop by state law. Those are the increases that we have for this public hearing that we're talking about.
Could you explain, when you say 3% of the cost of living plus 412, is that the merit?
Yes, the 412, so what we have is that there's really kind of three different kind of raises that you can get. One's a COLA, which is cost of living, which is just, trying to keep up with inflation. And most people get that, and what that percentage is it 2.5, is it 3, is it 2? Depends a lot on which website you're looking at. But they're all around that right now, around 2.5–3%. Then there's a merit raise, where somebody has done something to merit an increase. They've done something more than just being around. They've got to be, they've got a certificate. So, our water master gets his water certificate. If somebody else does some other things that we put out there that they can get a merit, so they can get a merit raise on top of the COLA. Then there's also a market raise. Sometimes we just have to make a raise to match the market for the individual. That the COLA and the merits have not kept up with what the market would be for an individual, meaning that they're $4 or $5 below what they could get somewhere else, and that has to be a decision. Do we want them to go, or do we incentivize them to stay? That's a big discussion on how do you do that market adjustment, because your turnover is expensive, but it's what happens sometimes. So those are the three types we're talking. So today what we're talking about is that COLA cost of living is the 3% that we've got in the budget, and for the police officer these are market raises, and for the judge it's mandated, a choice. There is no, he's just getting the COLA, and Cody's is kind of a merit raise, taking on all the responsibilities that he has to do and keeping up with also a market. That's what those are.
Okay, my biggest concern is that the money that we spend is not our money. It's the community's money, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought, okay, for the last 2 years, our employees have received big raises. For the 23–24 year, they got 10% plus $5 to each officer. And I had asked for the 22–23, but I didn't get that. I'm afraid that we're going to be raising our employees' wages so much that it's going to price us out of being able to take care of the community.
Not all employees, right?
Yeah. And so I think we need to have more discussion on this. And this is my opinion, and I'm not saying that our employees aren't the best that there is and they deserve to have a raise, but I'm saying that when we first started to do this budget, we were $500,000 in the red. And somehow this budget is now balanced, and I'm wondering if there's going to be any money left if we do have an emergency in the community. What are we going to do for that money? And so I kind of feel like that our employees have been well taken care of for the last 2 years, and maybe they get the COLA raise this year, and we revisit it maybe in December or January to see where we're at. That's kind of scary to me that all of a sudden we came up with $500,000 from when we had our 10-year budget. And that's, how does the rest of the council feel?
I think the raises for the last couple of years have been significant. And
day, I think we need to be real cautious. Just what we're doing right now.
I agree, I'm a little bit afraid of our infrastructure, that there's a lot of problems that nobody knows about, that are pretty serious, and I'm worried about it.
And that's my
And then
concern.
that would mean looking at increasing water rates for our citizens or other fees.
And a big percentage of our community are either on social security or minimum wage.
One thing to consider is a raise today goes on forever.
That's true. That's true. Like I said, a 10% plus $5 last year, that's a big raise.
That's always clarifying that's not all employees, that was who?
The officers.
Okay.
But the rest of the employees got it. Didn't they get
I think it was
10%?
6%.
6% last year. I don't know.
No, not last year, the year before they got 6%. Last year, I think it was the COLA, or four points. But they were significant raises for 2 years.
Any other questions?
I think they get COLA plus every.
Yeah.
COLA's just almost always.
That's almost, yeah.
So Mayor, we do need to open it to the public, or start asking the public to
Yeah, yeah.
get their input something.
Anything from the community?
Wow, I hate to be a squeaky wheel, I apologize. I'll make an effort to.
And just state your name if you would also.
Hi, once again, my name is Logan Day, I apologize. I just wanted to ask if there's any way, I respect the need for COLA increases. I did a little bit of research and I noticed that in towns that have a per capita of less than 4,000 people, the average raise is 2.4%. So I'm wondering if there's a way that that could be negotiated to perhaps maybe keep a little bit of a handle on it. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did bring it up that the COLA that I looked at was at 2.5. And when the raise was put out, it was at 3%. So,
So Gary, can you speak to the market that would drive that kind of rate for the officers?
I can come up with sort of candidate, but I can tell you, I do work with several other smaller community, police departments and 4-man police departments. These wages aren't out of the realm at all on the other side. They're within reason of especially with the experience and every city that I work with the police department is going through a challenge on how to keep funding the increase, meaning wages especially, because it's a challenge because there are factors that are driving that up. They're out of the control of many of the communities, because like the state of Utah is in need, so they have a much bigger budget than us, of course, and they can pay higher so that they entice people, because they're trying to find people as well. Because there's a shortage of officers from what I've seen in other communities, that they're all trying to, I hate to use the word poach, but try to incentivize other officers from other communities to come to their departments. It's not happening only in, I'm seeing it in several counties, and especially with the states all, they seem to be able to pay the high patrol,
I mean, you guys know this, you probably get approached. That's what I'm seeing. So what I'm seeing is unfortunately, for budget purposes, I have to try to figure out how we can pay for those things, because it's like, okay, we have to make a decision. One city that I work with, we made a decision to disband it. And we hired the sheriffs. Now, that was a decision they could make because of the sheriff's organization there. So I have two cities that have the sheriffs do the policing, but the issue is that the sheriffs are already sitting in their city. So the sheriffs are already going in and out of their city constantly. So they do a lot of control, without being in their contract, right? Because it's just that officers are coming in from wherever. And so they get a lot of presence in their city. So for them, it made sense. And for the one city, they only had one officer anyway. They couldn't afford more than one. And let me tell you, one officer is a very, very difficult situation. It puts that officer, he never is off duty. Because he has to be on duty 24 hours. It reminds me of the old country doctor where he has to be on duty no matter what time of the day, and this is the only doctor around, and no matter what happens. Well, that's why he's police officer. And everybody watches their homes and everything, so one is very, very difficult. So they couldn't afford to get more than one. So they said, well, if we get the sheriffs, at least we get several. So their situation in both those communities were completely different.
I think basically, and I wanted you to kind of elaborate, but what I'm experiencing as far as being an officer is exactly being approached by multiple agencies who are paying well above this at the start of it. And so I kind of wanted to come to you to me that is what's driving the market as far as one.
Yeah.
Sheriff Wood, what's happening in your department?
So we have stability at this moment, I hate to say that out loud, but we've lost officers at one point, 3 in 1 week to other agencies that paid higher wages. It's a state agency can literally pay a line officer more than what your chief's gonna make here if he got that raise. So there are agencies throughout the state that pay a lot, and the thing you need to factor in is your East Carbon police officer is also a certified Utah peace officer to work anywhere in the state. And so that's how they find people like that. So we do see that. There's a benefit to living in a place like East Carbon or Carbon County, and that is we don't live in the rat race. So we try to explain that as well as we can and exaggerate that as much as possible so that our deputies know you're in the greatest place in the world and we love you, we want to keep you. But if we're constantly dealing with that, I know Price Police is constantly dealing with that. It's an uphill battle all around. So it is a thing. He's not wrong. You're a big target. Seasoned officers. If you got an officer with more than 5 years, some agency's looking at it. So it can easily happen. Now, I will argue about the sheriff's office taking over an agency. That's not for free, mind you.
Oh, no, it's not free.
Yeah,
No, it's not free.
so my studies have shown each agency that's approached me with that, it'll cost you as much or more to have the sheriff's office up here than what you're paying for your police department. So yeah, it's not a deal that, hey, come take care of us, that it comes at a price. So hope I answered your question.
Yeah, man, comment on in the other communities is that the sheriff's department had to go out and hire, so you try to find the people, because it's not like you have a lot of extra.
I have none.
Yeah, they have to go out and hire those people, and of course, you're going to pay for that, because they had to hire that officer, you've got to pay for that officer, so
You have
that's what's gonna happen.
You have a school here, you need an SRO or a guardian for your school, that's state mandated, that's an expense. And right now, you have officers that live here, there aren't any deputy sheriffs that live up here. And so we'd have to travel back and forth, yeah, it would come expensive. I don't see that as being an option for you guys if you're looking to save money. So,
Jim? Commissioner, thanks for being here. I didn't notice you right off the bat.
It's time now.
So my name's Jen Lynestis. I should disclose that I'm the co-director of the ambulance. I've been doing that for over 15 years now. I understand that we are worried about what could possibly happen if we go too far with our budget. I just have a question. It's a little bit of a gray area. I've been doing this for 17 years and I still don't completely understand. In some ways, for all intents and purposes, ambulance and fire are considered city employees, but we're never included in wage increases, benefits, things like that. And we're an essential service. That's something that has to be provided. And I guess I just wonder, where does that lie? I mean, why are we not included in conversations like this or in the budget? Somebody had a copy back here, I looked at it, there's not even a line item at all that has anything to do with the ambulance, other than kind of what gets brought in by grants or or that Barbara secures for us. All of us that do the ambulance, we do it because we care for the community, we're not in it for the money. But at the same time, we have to live just like everybody else does. And I would just ask that you guys consider in the future that we do provide a very valuable service here, and I think we deserve to be included in these conversations. So I guess my question, why are we not included in these conversations? If anyone could answer that. Maybe there's something I'm not aware of.
I just want to make one point. You can ask questions here. The only thing is this meeting is mostly for them to receive comment and input. It's not so much a question answer session. If they choose to answer that questions, they may do so. But the meeting is primarily for you as the public to give your comments and thoughts and input. It's not an opportunity to ask questions.
Fine, I withdraw my question.
Well, you don't have to withdraw. You can ask the questions. I just want everybody to be clear. It's primarily a comment, a night to give comments, and city council, if you want to answer questions, you may, but really, it's here to receive information from the public rather than to have to answer questions per se.
My name's Raquel Palmer, and I just have a question regarding the merit raise. You explained, like, if they get a ticket, if they get some sort of license or something, which was a great explanation. My question is, how do you get those merit raises per employee? Like, I do know that you said 50 cents for Cody. The guy is, what do you do? You're a police, a fireman, a chief?
Well, I will say that even when he's off, he takes phone calls nonstop from the city. He goes above and beyond. We're having family time and he gets a phone call and he's out the door because he needs to take care of the city. You know?
I guess I shouldn't say question, but that's how we learn, right? We're not in city government, so we do have to ask questions.
You can ask the question. I just want, it's really a chance to give your comments.
Okay, well,
It's
my
not
comment
a-
would be that you look at the merit raises based on merit. And I do see this gentleman going above and beyond to make sure that the citizens in this community are taken care of day and night. So, I just feel like merit, based on merit, I can't see a 50 cent to a $5. So there's the comment.
You're not the only one. Okay, is that all the comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You can take it as a comment or
Well,
question.
state your name. Come
My
forward.
name's Jeff Palmer. Everybody here knows me.
Okay, we just need to
And
get your.
you can have my name, Jeff Palmer.
We need you so we can keep you recorded.
Merit, is that, I just got here late, is merit what we're talking about here as far as the raise? Is that what?
Part of it.
ALOT, there's,
Cost of living adjustment, merit.
Okay, COLA, I understand that, but merit,
And then the merit is.
what's the merit?
That's, if you look on the slide, so it's the first part is the COLA. And then the second part is plus 4.12 per hour, or $5 per hour, 50 cents per hour, that's the merit.
No, what constitutes the merit? Or am I not understanding meritocracy here? If you get a merit raise, that means you went above and beyond, not because you're just there.
Performance.
Performance, okay. Where's Cody at? Where'd you go?
They said.
So he gets called every night and you want a merit raise, you're gonna have to make sure that you keep on that merit. If it's the police, I would like to know their merits. What did they do? We don't get a merit raise. I don't get a raise, I don't get a cut in my water bill because I pay it on time every week. That's what you're supposed to do. I don't think merit has, I don't see how you can judge merit between this man and another guy. That's my comment. Take it as you will, Counselor.
That's why I don't call it a merit raise.
I wouldn't because, and I wouldn't
We went
compare,
over
I
three kinds
wouldn't,
of raises, what were they, Gary?
Well, there can be a market raise.
Market raise.
More like that.
that makes more sense.
These are more market, the
Cost of
police are
living.
market, or cost of living and market raise versus a merit raise. There's, like I said, there were 3 types of different raises. Really, there's kind of a COLA raise, which is cost of living. There's a merit raise when somebody reaches a certain level or accomplishes something, and then there's a market raise to say, well, everywhere else, we have not kept up in the market with our wages with that individual, and we want to raise that so we don't lose them because they could be taken from somewhere else.
Okay,
And that's a market raise.
you're talking police there. They could be taken? Okay. Mr. Wood mentioned that they are certified throughout the state, right? Okay, but you're in East Harbor. Okay, you need to know that. If you go to Salt Lake City, it's not gonna be the same job. You might get paid more, but you won't like it as well. I guarantee you that. If you want to go from the frying pan to the fire, welcome to it. I say go for it. That's not merit. That's not merit.
I'm not claiming to be merit. What I'm saying is I can do the same job for different agencies, same area for more money.
Well,
How much more?
Starting wage for a fully certified individual, last I was told, was $36 an hour. And that's to start off, initially certified.
And you had experience,
I have 8 years experience.
Looks here, like in a metropolitan city like Salt Lake City, you could possibly earn as much as $62,000 a year. But I couldn't help but think, how would you commute?
I wouldn't.
You would have to.
That's the point I'm trying to make though, is that there are agencies right here where I can come home to my same house every day. And both of those agencies, they're pumping things up so bad and trying to pick people off enough that that's what I'm saying is just dragging the market. I'm not saying that it's meritorious or anything else. All I'm
Could
saying
you
is it's
clarify
a
just a little
market.
bit? It's really interesting, and I think that everybody would want to know the opportunities that are available to you.
Adult probation and parole and highway patrol,
Right.
both state agencies, and they're both starting
And they're
guys out.
recruiting.
And they are recruiting, yes, and starting guys out at about 36 an hour, the last I had heard. And that was prior to this budget year, they said that they were going for another increase. So,
well,
Would that include moving?
you wouldn't, with agency, you wouldn't have to. I would, you wouldn't have to.
Highway patrol does not pay you to move.
No,
I can verify that.
but they have one section in price and adult probation and parole in price in the same building. And that's all I'm trying to illuminate is there were questions as to why that increase was there. And it's just trying to keep up with that market, keep them from recruiting us from leaving here.
it sounds like to me, either we're gonna get recruited somewhere, you better pay us. If I was sitting where they are, I wouldn't wanna be pushed in the corner that way. Sheriff Wood alluded to the same thing. He's got to go anywhere unless you pay them. That's the feel I'm getting.
And
That's the wrong approach. You don't overraise that.
you completely misunderstand me.
Well,
That is not
I
what
understand
I'm
what you're
saying.
saying.
I haven't left yet. I have no intentions on leaving.
Well, we need not confuse merit and the fact that there's jobs everywhere. If somebody wants to work, for everybody, not just police. Let's not confuse the issue here. And to say another city is doing whatever, Mr. I don't. Sorry, I don't know your name.
What is your name, sir?
Gary Pennington.
Forgive me, Gary. It's Mr. Kennedy.
You can't confuse other cities' budgets with ours. I don't know anything about our budget. I don't know anything about another city's budget. But you have two different animals here. You can't say, oh, another city did this, so you want to do it. You can't do that. Chuck just mentioned that we got things looking at us as a city that other cities might not have. So I encourage you to be prudent on all of this.
And I just wanted Gary to explain why those numbers look so scary.
Okay.
I'm not saying that we absolutely have to. I think that everybody else on the council has a good point. We should be prudent. We should be cautious.
Yep.
Because there is infrastructure, like Chuck said, that may jump up and bite us. All I wanted Gary to do was just try to explain why that number looks that astronomical. And it's just because the market is being driven that way.
Okay, what, how can I frame this question that isn't a question?
You can ask a question.
Okay.
Here's what I want you to understand, or everybody to understand. We have a lot of people here. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to make their comment. If the city council is spending most of the time answering questions, that's restricting the public's time to give comments. So, Mr. Palmer, you've already had about 5 minutes. Mayor, do you want to give him additional time here to?
One short.
Make it short, Jim.
Okay,
Let me say something first. In the past 2 years, we've had this other thing that we call the retention phase. Now, there's a fine line between retention and what we've got up there. Is it really a retention raise, or is it something different? This is where I'm.
Mike?
If we could, oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I just had, I'm curious, in my own mind, I'm not gonna pose a question, I'm curious as to what part of the budget goes directly to maintenance for the police department. I'm just curious. If you wanna answer it, fine, if not, I'll ask you some other time.
We're gonna get there, Jeff.
Okay? Okay.
When we go
Because-
into the new budget, we'll get there.
Barbara's right, that is, if in fact it is, it's our money. It's not for, it's our money that you're dealing with.
This is the scary part for me. It takes $50,000 to $100,000 to train one if we lose one. That's,
Does it take 50 to 100,000 to train you?
Okay, just a minute. You cannot ask a question. You can't ask, we've got other people raising their hands wanting to make a comment.
Yeah,
So
thanks
Mayor,
for keeping everything in order, I apologize.
if you'll call on people, Mayor, when you're ready to take the comment.
Just one more quick comment. I don't want everybody to feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but we're talking about merit raises now. That's kind of what's on the table that everyone's talking about. I would just like to say, a lot of you probably don't know how intensive it is for us to keep the ambulance running, to keep our certifications. In order to become an advanced EMT, we're talking over 1,000 hours of time that you put in, you know, the class, your clinical hours, things like that. And that's not a one-time deal. We have to do that every 2 years to keep that up. And just like you guys are saying, the police can go work anywhere, so can we. We're naturally certified. But I also want you guys to know that we're not threatening in any way to go anywhere, because we love this community. We know how bad we're needed. But again, it could be a little eye-opening, and I encourage you to ask questions to any of us that work on the service. to just let you know what our pay, if you wanna call it that, what that is, what it requires to keep up our certification, and to keep training, you know, you guys are talking about retention. We have next to nothing to offer our people right now to stay here, and yet they do, without asking questions.
Yes.
My name's Genevieve Guerrero, and I know that on the May sixth tentative budget meeting, there was a $415,000 deficit. And I just wanted confirmation on whether that deficit still exists, is it non-existent?
Okay, I think that question is gonna be relevant for when we go into the proposed 25-26 budget.
That's true.
So we're still on the wage increase issue right now. So
Okay.
I would recommend you hold that one for just a minute. I'm sure we'll be able to get to it.
I did have one question on the wage issue, who exactly proposed the 10% increase? Is it a 10% increase?
Well, I'm not the budget, look at him, not me. I don't know,
So, it's 3% COLA increase.
3%, okay, who exactly proposed that?
I sat down with the mayor and we came up with that and then presented it to the council in the original tentative budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'm Rochelle Hill, and I guess my comment is going to be that if it's about merit, these people need up the law, because I'm sick. And for the police officers, I felt like Jesse and Chad do a tremendous job. They actually try to be police. As far as the other two, they take a half hour or 45 minutes to respond. And when they do, they don't investigate. I had one officer that I spoke with the chief and the mayor about. I had called about the drug activity next to my house and wanted to be kept anonymous. And Officer Holt went down to that house and told the gentleman that it was me that called. Now, had this been not a dime store drug dealer, I probably wouldn't be here right now. But as far as Jesse and Chad, we've had an issue with, we've had to have protective orders and stalking orders on a person. And they've gone above and beyond. And just like Cody, he's helped out with my dad and merit in that issue, yes, I think they deserve it. The people who drive by my house, sorry, I'm just emotional. People who drive by my house at 7 o'clock in the morning, drive by, or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, do nothing, because there's nothing going on. Why don't we patrol the streets between 4 a.m. and 7? That would be worthy of a raise. So, I guess I'm just saying, the money needs to be put where people are putting effort. It doesn't need to be put where we're gonna go for a ride through town, and we're gonna make sure everybody's dogs are in their yard, or your weeds are picked up. And then we go back to our office and sit for the rest of the 7 hours a day. It just doesn't make sense.
There's a lot of people that will disagree with you.
Oh, I'm sure, but that's my opinion.
Carolyn.
I'm Carolyn Vega, and I appreciate the officers and the EMTs, they do a great job for our community. But my comment is, I don't think that Jesse should be debating his raise. That's a conflict of interest in my opinion.
I wasn't trying to debate Carolyn. The only thing I wanted was some clarification to throw it out there why it was a market. Whether we get it or not, I'm still gonna be here. I'm not championing one way or the other. I just wanted to clarify what they believe land market is.
Just a clarifying question. You said, Gary, that there are 3 types of raises, market being one, merit the other, and then the COLA. So, the terms are kind of going back and forth. Which are being proposed, I guess?
I'm not proposing a merit raise though. The market raise. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to get out of the wage increase and move into the transfer of what money?
Let's see, let's just do the one, well, are you going to take a motion on the wage increase itself, or are you just doing the public hearing? Are you, you're gonna come back to that later, right? Is that right? Is that-
If it were me, I wouldn't make decisions on the wage increase until I saw the budget.
Okay,
That's me.
Yeah, it's part of the budget. This is just supposed to be informational for what we're going to talk about in the budget.
So as you said, everything can be amended.
Oh, yeah, nothing's set in stone. That's why we're having this. That's the whole point.
Who's right there? Lisa.
I just have a quick question. So when you guys do make the motion, will Jesse be able to vote also, or?
That's up to Jesse.
The public needs to know.
No, I can't vote on my own wage. no.
Oh, okay,
On the-
that's all I wanted to know.
On the final budget, because it's a total, I can say yes or no. But as far as my wage specifically, no, I wouldn't.
Oh, okay, that was my question. Sorry.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So let me clarify, so what we're making a motion about is just moving to the next item, but we're not approving.
Just going for the
I'll make a motion that we get out of the wage increase part of the public hearing.
Okay, you have a motion and a second to get out of the wage increases of the public hearing. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. I'll entertain another motion.
Make a motion that we enter the transfer from water fund public hearing for a total of $40,200.
Second.
Have a motion to go into the public hearing on the transfer of water funds. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. What do you got, Gary?
Okay, so what this transfer is, and this, we've done this transfer, probably, 8 years. So it's an accounting issue, is what we're really dealing with. So in accounting, we say that if you're a utility and you have a department within the city that actually uses your utility, then you have to charge them as if they were a regular customer. So what happens is that parks and cemetery use water from the water department. So we have to charge them as if they're a regular customer. So what happens now is all of a sudden we got this expense sitting in the general fund. And when you know where the revenues from the general fund mainly come from property tax and sales tax. That's the big ones. So we're using our property tax and sales tax to just pay the water department for our usage. So what we said, instead of saying, well, that's great, but we don't necessarily want to use our our sales tax and our property tax to pay ourselves. So because now that makes it short in the general fund, which we're already short. So what we've done is said, well, we're just gonna have the water department give that back. In essence, we're giving the usage of it. That way we don't have to raise other taxes to pay for it. The option is left it here. We've got now to come up with other funds to fund the general fund. It's $40,200, we have to, that we would have to come up with. So that's what they're trying to do. We're just giving back, the water department's giving back the money that they charge the department.
Any questions? Review it again. Okay, entertain a motion.
Motion to close the public hearing on the transfer from the water fund of $40,200.
Have a motion and a second to leave the public hearing for the transfer of, water fund of $40,200. All in favor? Aye. Any? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go to the next public hearing.
Motion that we go into the public hearing for the proposed 2025-26 budget.
A motion and a second to leave the proposed 25-26 budget. We have already.
Mayor, if you want, you can ask for an explanation first, and then take comments, but the one with two comments, it's up to you, but it might be helpful if Gary highlights what he wants to highlight, and then take his comments. It's entirely your discretion.
Let us go through it.
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me go through it, and then you'll know what, you'll have better idea of the question. And I love questions. That's great. So what is proposed in the next year's budget? So what are we talking about? Now, we're into what we're going to do for this upcoming year, starting at July 1 through the next June 26. And so this is the proposed budget to start with. As I said before, you know, down the road, obviously, we make amendments because we get a grant we didn't know about. I mean, an obvious one is that in this budget, I'm making a massive believe that the ambulance grant from the state of Utah will be, as Barbara and I talked, we know that we're not really sure where that's going to end up. So we're just doing our best guess of what some of these numbers are, because we don't know, but we have to do a budget to start with. So we have to start somewhere, and then as we get better information as we go down the year, then we can make adjustments to that. So just know that this is what we're starting with. So the Class C roads, there's carryovers. What a carryover is something that we had in the current year budget that we didn't spend. We said we were going to do something, but we didn't do it. So we're going to now do it in this year, this fall. That's normally what a carryover is. The carryover for the Class C B&C road funds is B&C road managed things. Is that the B&C road funds are grant funds basically coming from the state of Utah, Department of Transportation, Utah. And they give us this money every year, and
Yeah.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I can turn around, I guess, as long as you can hear me. Is that these Class C road funds come in, and they are very restricted. The state of Utah actually has a website that shows you exactly what you can and cannot spend on this money. And so it's very restricted money. And any kind of restricted monies, we must carry that over to the next year, because we can't spend it any other way. So like this Class C road funds, it only can be used basically for road maintenance. And that's what we use it for. It can't be spent on, if we wanted to do some park improvement, we can't do that. If we wanted to put in pickleball courts, we can't do that. If we wanted to do some signs out in the, that aren't traffic signs, we just didn't know a welcome sign that, I can't do that. So they're very restrictive in what we do. So we have to carry those forward, because we haven't spent it all in a year. We have to now move it forward to the next budget to be spent. And so that over a period of time starts to grow as we don't spend that. And the objective has been that we're kind of saving those monies up, because to do a road maintenance, we can do, some road maintenance, but road maintenance is very, very expensive, as you're aware. And so sometimes we have to build those funds up to actually go do a major project, because you can't just,
the amount that they give you in 1 year isn't enough to do any kind of major project. The good part is, in the state of Utah, the last 2 years, they have a new program that for rural Utah, they've been giving extra funds, and that comes in January, and which is kind of nice. We've gotten some extra funds from the state in the last 2 years. This year's was about half of what the first year was, but hey, I'm happy if we get any extra money from the state on our roads. We never seem to have enough road money. So that's what these carry forwards are. The V&C road funds, I'm estimating, and it all depends on how much we spend here in the end of May and June, about $600,000. Remember, that can only be spent basically on roads. They carry over $5,000 from a grant that we received for a generator at City Hall. Because we didn't spend it yet, we have to carry it forward, we have to spend it on that. State mental health grant, I'm estimating about the carryover that we haven't used, about $8,400. That's gonna get changed as we get better numbers, but that's my best guess at this point. I'm sure it'll change, Barbara, as we get those invoices and know what's really the number is. What we also had in the current year budget to do some repairs on the walking trail, and so we're gonna carry 2,000, since we didn't spend that 2,000 in the current year, we're gonna carry that 2,000 over to do the work this coming year. Hopefully we get it done. Carry over also from crack seal at the cemetery, trying to improve the asphalt there at the cemetery. We didn't get it done this year, so hopefully we do it next year. So I'm just, also in this budget, we have a 3% COLA increase for all full-time employees like we talked about. We've also had some merit increases like we talked about for some select employees. Now,
Not merit.
okay, merit, market. I'll call it market. Yeah. So now we're gonna talk about the individual funds, and then we'll talk about some of the capital that we're gonna do. Understand that most of the budget that we're doing, we come up with, is the day-to-day operations. There's not a lot we can do about a lot of those kind of things. We still have to pay our insurance, we have to pay the gas. We have to, buy the fertilizer. We've got to buy a little tool here and there. I mean, it's just our normal operations. That uses up a lot of our budget. And then we say, okay, on top of that, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to try to do these other kind of capital things, improvements to the city versus just normal operations. So what we have here, though, in the general fund, we have made to make this balance, because you were correct, Barbara, and that when we proposed the tentative budget, we were out of balance by a lot. $500,000. And so what I did to balance, because I didn't hear from the council on what to do with this, so I have moved the money around from some of this stuff, and I'll explain it here. And we can change that, it's just that I didn't get any feedback on what cuts to make, so I had to make a balance. Because we have to have a balanced budget. So, to make it balanced, the general fund, what I had to do is finish closing out, like I talked about. We had these other funds that were sitting over there that we were gonna close, that we have no need for anymore. I'm finishing closing the capital projects fund and moving over $515,000. And then also using some of our tipping fees, $41,000 for our tipping fees to balance the budget. Now, our tipping fees come from the landfill. They come in every month. We get a bonus, or a dividend from them, basically. The city owns it, and they pay us money every month for tipping fees there. So we get a return on that investment, which has actually been quite good. But that all depends on how theirs is, so that's not a consistent number. Okay, in the revenue, we have the fire department grant from the county. It's supposed to be around $22,500. We'll see how that really comes in. That's also being changed a little bit, but that's the fire grant from the county to help fund our fire department. What they were proposing was basically around 40–50% to pay for our fire department to help us. On the council side, we had 2,000 for some sound equipment or other equipment. We were looking at possibly moving to down the hall and maybe needing some sound equipment so that people can be able to hear better, to be able to have access better through Zoom, and allow people to be able to attend council meetings if they're having a problem and they can't make it, they can get it through Zoom. That is, we encourage, obviously, to have as many people to council meetings as possible. And so we had $2,000 in there. For general buildings, we have $3,000 upgrade for the new city hall portion. So the police department, as many of you know, the police department has moved to the new building, which by the way was paid for by ARPA funds, by federal grant monies. And so we've got this open space, thinking, okay, maybe we can utilize that better. And we have $3,000 in the budget currently for to make some changes in the building. There's also $50,000 for installation of generators at City Hall. The reason for these has been on, we've talked about this for several years. Having generators, power outages, and the situations that happen. Trying to make sure that we have generators at the fire station, at the police, and here at City Hall, so that if in an emergency that was more than just a few hours, that people could have a place to go if they need to, depending on the situation. A museum, we've got $600 for a new computer and $1,200 to install a new alarm system. The police, we have purchases of a new vehicle for $78,000, along with some monitors and multiple printers for a total of $600. We have a plan that basically we rotate out our vehicles with the police every year. We try to rotate one out, and that's the cost of the new one. For the fire department, we put in $12,000 to purchase 2 new turnouts. We're constantly having to rotate those out, and so we're trying to make sure that the fire guys have those turnouts, and so that they're safe when they're doing their job. So we've got $12,000 to do 2 more turnouts. Animal control, we have $14,000 for an animal shelter to build a place where we can put the animals, and $1,000 for a computer printer.
Here should be Peter Road.
Beach general roads. Yes. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, roads, B&C road funds. So these road funds that I talked about, what are we going to spend that money on? And so you can buy equipment, you can buy, you can help with buildings if you need to, that house the equipment for the streets, and things like that. So we're proposing that some of that money that we're carrying over is the $12,000 for a street sweeper, that the attachment for a use case here. And some of that will be funded by, if we can sell some of the ambulances, we might do that, or it comes out of B&C roads. Because we can get a street sweeper, because that has to do with streets. Also looking to get a new snow plow, backhoe, and backhoe bucket, and a salt spreader with those funds. What those dollars are, I don't know yet, but they would stay within that $600,000, obviously. But we don't want to spend any more than we have to, because we also need to, the rest of it would go towards chip seal and things like that. We can also use B&C road funds, just a reminder to the council that we can use it for sidewalks as well. Park and recreation, we have $2,000 for maintenance on the crack seal and seal coat of the walking trail. That's that carryover monies that we talked about. So now there's the expense in the park. We're carrying over the $2,000 to do that. $21,000 for additional supplies such as fertilizer and sprinklers, and trying to really get the parks looking good. And in the cemetery, we have $2,000 for the parking lot crack seal that we're carrying over, plus $1,000 for crushed concrete and $1,000 for an aerator. I'm not sure we can get an aerator worth much for $1,000, but we'll see. Wellness center, this is a normal thing, but we normally don't spend it. It all depends, because I don't know what we're going to need for new equipment at the wellness center. So we put in $5,000. Some years we use it, some years we don't. Just if some equipment breaks down, so we can keep that wellness going. It's a really nice center. We put a lot of investment into it, we're trying to keep it going. So we've got that there if it's needed. The water fund. As you're aware, we've had water treatment plant that's been started. We have the debt on that, and this coming year is now when we're going to start paying that debt. And so now the debt, combined total of the two debts, because there were two that had to come in together. They call it 23A and 23B. But the total amount that we're going to need for just to service that debt is $79,800. Just to service that debt. But that's the only bonds we have in the entire city. So I'm pretty happy about how we got rid of all that several years ago. We also put in the water department for valve replacements as needed, $75,000. If we're going along and we need to get more valves in there, it's kind of just in case to make sure that we have the funds available. If we have some valve replacements that need to be done to make sure that the system is working well, then that's what we can do. Those are the highlights of this upcoming budget. Mostly everything else is related to just operational, insurance costs, gasoline, day-to-day operationals.
The grant.
Right.
Should that be in this, on this page?
If my understanding is we received it.
Yes, well, we haven't received it.
Right.
And we've been approved.
Yes.
And we've been.
And so that's one of those adjustments that I was talking about. If and when we get the grants, then we'll make an adjustment in the budget to say, okay, we're gonna take that $15,000 for the archery, or whatever it's gonna be, and then we're gonna add an expense to that, so that we know exactly what the amount is and we know where to put the expense.
We have the expenses, so the actual budget is over 13,000, and there has been expenses.
Yes. And frankly, if those expenses happened in the current year, then actually that grant isn't next year's grant, it's actually the current year's grant, because the grant has to match, the revenue has to match the expense. You don't wanna have expenses in one year, then all of a sudden you look bad, and then all of a sudden over here it looks good, it's like, it's too much, we wanna equal out those things, and so we will accrue back, if we've got those expenses, and they give us the report, or the award, and gives us the money, then we will pull that back into the current year.
July 1st, yes, that we have the deadline with all of our expenses. I don't know for sure the exact date when those. It is in there.
It's in what budget?
It's on page 12, in the fiscal year end June 30, 2026, on page 12,
Okay.
on the third of the Wake County page, under Parks and Recreation.
Oh, I'm glad I did that. Okay. And like you say, it depends on when all that happens. It gets confusing for county when we get right at the very end, and you've got expenses in one year and you've got revenue in another. We try to bring those together so that they offset each other, so it doesn't look, it doesn't have these big swings in budgets, and it causes confusion, so. Yeah.
Thanks.
Are you there, Jerry?
Sure. So Gary, I have a question.
Wow.
So this capital, the money that we had to transfer over to balance this budget, is that a larger amount than we've seen before? Because in my recent memory, I can't
Yes.
remember that amount. So what happens if we have an emergency come up with our infrastructure? Are there funds available to cover it after we transfer that much out?
So typically, in the past, when you have transferred,
A couple of $100,000.
like at
maybe.
250 to, about 250 to 275,000. So this year, we're transferring substantially more. What I'm proposing we do here, well, because of the way it is right now, is that I moved it from the capital projects to close that one, so that then all we have left is the tipping fees. So we have one other source, so we don't have it in all these other places that it's get confusing, well, I'm pulling it from here, I'm pulling it from here. I don't wanna do that, I want everybody to be able to see, this is what we've got left. So that's why I closed these other two accounts.
Okay, but that was still savings accounts. It
It
doesn't
was a
matter if
savings
there
account.
was 10 or 15 of them.
Right,
It
they were
was our
savings
savings account.
This was a savings account. If you wanna look at it, we're using $515,000 of savings to balance the budget, plus the 41 from the tipping fees.
But the good thing about the tipping fees is since we paid off all the debt, we can use that tipping fee for wherever we want.
Yes, that's a great point, because that was one of the reasons we paid off all the debts, the tipping fees were the security to those 13 debts. So we're like, oh, great, we can't use those, so they kept building up, but we didn't. So we used those, paid it off, and now all the tipping fees can be used at the discretion of the council.
So, can you give me a ballpark of how much is left in our savings? For all this?
I don't know that.
Doesn't know.
Because I know the tippage fees are not coming in as fast and furious as they once were. ECDC is slowed down quite a bit.
That really fluctuates. It really fluctuates from a lot of money to not so much money. I mean, it's amazing how much. I can tell you what's left over in the tipping fees. Just a second. These are big files, man. Now, just as a reminder, you will see on the financials, if you look at the financials, you'll see other cash that's out there, but some of it's not available because we have to, like I said, we have 600,000 in cash that's basically the Class C road money. They say, oh, I've got all this money. Now, some of it you can spend, some of it you can't, right? And it's really important. I've seen places where they lose track of that and they spend their restricted monies and then they have to try to fund it back and put it back in. It's like, oh, that becomes, so it's really important we keep track of which is which on that.
Sure it is.
And it takes a little time to get things.
Is anyone close to opening this door so you can get some airflow in here?
So hot,
There's some free air for you, everybody, free air. Free air.
I second.
Free air.
End of May, which is the last we know, we have 570,000.
So,
But I know we put some in, so we're probably around 600.
so that's our total that we have after we move this $500,000 over balance the budget.
Yeah, I'm trying to say, this is, we're gonna be using this as our savings account, put it all in one spot, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, it's much easier for us to, say, I have this pool over here, I'm trying to just pull it all together.
And so, I don't know, maybe you won't be able to tell me this, but I know our biggest cost is wages. So how much is this going to increase our wages if we go with the wages that are, because once we give these wages, that's our cost for new one. Go back and take it back. How much is that going to increase what we paid last year for our wages to what we will be paying?
I thought I sent you that. Didn't I send you that?
I don't remember seeing.
Yeah, because the mayor had me send you all the proposed wage increases.
That's what, yeah, you sent it to me and I sent it to the rest of the council.
Yeah, so you see what those are, yeah.
Yeah, so those are all of the wage increases.
That's everybody's increase. You have the COLA and whatever you wanna call it, additional.
So what's the total that it's going to increase from what our wages are now to, with everything that you sent me?
I'll just have to pull up and add up just like.
Doesn't he know that? That's amazing.
Because I think we only, mainly I want, like, the people to know it, because I think we only went over the department heads,
Yes.
so, I
The
mean,
department, that's all that public hearing was only required for those individuals.
so I think I'd like the public to know how we're spending their money.
Well, they're gonna know.
Those are not the only wage increases.
No,
is
no.
what you're saying,
No, no.
yeah.
Everybody's getting.
Right.
Yeah, we just went over,
They
yeah,
need to know
they
that.
need, yeah, because we just went over the department heads.
There's 14 people that will get it.
So they get the COLA across the board at 3%.
Mhm.
And then, I think on that sheet, everybody has an increase,
Yes.
every person had an increase. Yeah,
Yes, everybody had an increase. Well, yeah. I mean, like, EMT things, the fire people didn't, council didn't. But the full-time employees, yes.
And what was the total of the increase?
Mayor, you could take other public comment.
Yeah, it's gonna take like 5 minutes to come up with.
Yeah, but this is
Tammy Edwards, so it's not that I need this clarified, it's that we've had some false information going throughout the community. So, if you could state again, how many police department buildings do we have? One. And the new one, the alterations that were made to it was paid for out of?
Our funds.
Thank you.
And that's how we had to use it.
And we don't get $1.2 million if each one is here.
they're pretty used.
Well, wouldn't that have been nice?
Oh, wow.
That's
Sure would be nice.
Oh,
Well, it's-
wow, well, we wouldn't worry about our deficit.
No, I just want you to occur that we've had false information going throughout the community, it's been very upsetting, or trying to upset. But while we're in this meeting, it's great to have that clarification for those who are spreading the false information.
Yes.
questions
Give
earlier.
your name again. And the reason I'm asking this, everyone, is not because people don't know who you are, but it's for the recording. It has to be reflected on the minutes, when Liz puts together the minutes, so she needs that name as she puts together the minutes, so that's the reason we were asking the names.
So you clarified the budget was balanced from the, May 6th hearing. It was $450,000 in the red at that time. I just wanted to, confirm that it is balanced now, is that correct? That's the question?
Yes.
Okay, and you answered my questions already, you went into those on your own as far as what line items were used. Currently, the water treatment plant, you mentioned that the payment was $79,800, is that per month or per year?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, if that was a year, a month. We would be raising it.
So we won't look. You don't know till you ask, you know?
Probably.
Yeah, no, that's a great
Water
question.
treatment plants aren't cheap.
They are not cheap, you are right there.
You get paid off like we did that.
And then I was wondering, does the city have a rainy day fund?
She's still.
Does the city have a rainy day fund?
Basically, our rainy day fund is what we have in there, and it's not, that still has to be used for the everyday running of the city. If we have an emergency, that money's gotta come from the savings that we have in there.
Okay,
That's it.
so it's just basically the savings account that we did. And then the water treatment plant, the operating expense of the plant, it would be under the water fund category, is that correct?
I don't know right now that we know it, because we really haven't just, seen what the water treatment plant is gonna be. We still haven't, yeah, we haven't seen much.
The operating expense of the water treatment plant, what line item does that fall under specifically?
Well, there's a lot of them. There's a lot literally, so because there's going to be power, right? So that will go under the utilities. There's gonna be wages, so that will go under wages and benefits. There'll be other maintenance or repair things that will be under materials and supplies. So there's several one of those categories, each one of those, but there's a lot that's gonna go into those categories that's related to the plant. And they're not separated out separately.
Okay. So it's not really needed water treatment plant anywhere?
No.
Or it's a water treatment plant?
No.
Okay. All right.
It's the water department itself, the whole water. As you might wanna say, the water company, you know, because what we try to do with the utilities is try to make them separate in total from everything else.
Yeah, not private.
But we run it as in total, not at the plant, and then you would also have the water, the wells, or how we get the water into the plant, and then how you get the distribution of the water. So there's lots of parts of the water. You know, there would be tanks as well, storage. So they're all combined in one.
Okay, thank you.
Gary, just to clarify, I think on line 28, column C, I think that's a typo. I believe my wage is $28.06 an hour. And so is 11 officers too. Pretty sure.
Jason, you know?
I think you're
What was that question?
On my wage, I believe it's $28.06 an hour.
It is
not
26 hours. Yeah, because of the.
I just don't want it to reflect
Yep.
incorrectly.
Now you're gonna have to transfer more over to balance that.
I'm sure of that.
Jake?
No, I'm just saying.
Any more? It is calculating? Ricky?
So, this is Ricky. Anyway, when I looked at the budget at the school, my eyes always went to the biggest increase. So this is just a simple question about Like going back to the 23-24 budget, animal control went from 8,736 to 94,100.
Yeah. That's because we have that building added in there, right?
No,
No, that's
no, no,
just
no, no.
why it's there.
Oh, we added a
She
full-time
became
employee.
full-time without benefits.
And got benefits.
So that wasn't including the building or?
No, animal control is just the animal control itself, nothing including. So that 90 increase is understanding that a full health insurance and then mandate state retirement. It goes on top of that.
New capital outlay, $15,000.
Well, that's the current year, but when she said, if I understood it right, is in the past, when we had a big jump from one year to the other, that's when our animal control person went from part-time to full-time. And that's what it costs to get an employee, full-time employee. The benefits, if you work over the school district, I'm sure you realize this, is that the benefits with state and governments in the state of Utah, sometimes the benefits are roughly 50%.
So that's including the benefits?
Yes, that's including the benefits.
Okay.
Wages and benefits.
That's wages and benefits.
You have,
And that's out of our,
you have the budget,
right?
Huh?
you have the budget.
I do.
Yeah.
It breaks that down. Employee benefits, salary and wages proposed,
Was that on the net? Oh, I didn't go on that.
40,000.
So it's not uncommon.
So
to
what
have
is
employee
the
benefits
capital
equal to
outlay
benefit.
for 15,000 is that?
That was the 14,000 for animal welfare and 1,000 for.
I could hear you.
Whether or not we spend that year.
Well, I will say that since you're doing all that figuring, Gary, we don't need a new computer at the museum. We have a brand new one. We just need to be able to get Microsoft Office on it.
Oh, okay, that's great.
I mean, 2 years ago, we got a brand new computer and we've waited 2 years for Microsoft Office. And we're still waiting. Because you can't really have a museum without a database, so.
Along with that, what's the 1,500 for telephone over there at the museum?
That's probably just the basic for phone and internet service.
Right about, for weird times.
Yeah.
We don't use it.
Yeah.
Right.
Our telephone booth, we use it more.
You're right, you can get rid of that.
Yeah, we don't use that telephone
Yeah.
ever.
No, we have a cell phone.
Got a question?
Yo,
Yes, Jason Radke, I'm asking about the Zoom. Did you guys send out the link for people to watch this tonight?
Yeah, that's not a question pertaining to the budget, so,
Oh,
um,
you don't want to,
and it's not required to have it, this is open, the public hearing, it doesn't require a Zoom link. It's not
doesn't
required.
require a Zoom link, okay? Not part of the budget.
I'm kind of surprised that this question hasn't come up. Barbara's close to it. If we use that money to balance this year, what are you gonna do next year?
That's what I, yeah. Or what are we gonna do if we have an emergency? We all know our infrastructure is old, and we say all the time, man, this is gonna fail, this is gonna do, you know, what are we gonna do? Because we can't guarantee we're gonna get a certain amount, or even a amount from the CDC. We didn't get our streets lined with gold like we were promised.
Next year, something's gonna have to give. That's all there is to it. As I look at this budget, something's gonna have to go.
Has police department always run a balanced budget?
You have to, by law, have to.
I've made the comment for years now, that all we need is one little glitch in the way East Carbon looks will change dramatically. And a glitch could be the power plant. I've spent years working with ECDC at the Capitol, trying to make sure that the state did not approve the promontory facility. That would have just about wiped out ECDC. So these are little glitches. But I wasn't really expecting that these glitches would come just a little bit at a time. And that's what's happening to our revenue. Take a look at just this year compared to last year. Last year I sold $80,000 worth of water. How many water to sell this year? I knew it. Property taxes going down. Things we get, money we get from the county is going down.
Wow.
What was that question? You're double, right?
Criminals.
And what part of that are we gonna get? None.
Oh,
There's this thing called the fair taxation, truth in taxation that determines that. We could pay 3 times more, and none of it would come back to the city. Jared, you have the same problem with the county. All of these, you're not getting.
No.
No?
So every time a mine goes under, every time a power plant goes, any money that's lost from that has to be passed on to the residents. So that's why it matters.
Yeah, there's that pie.
Yeah, taxes. So it's not that, like you said, it's not that anybody's getting more money, it's just they're just changing who they're collecting it from. And so, you know, they're in the carbon, the carbon power plant, and some people cheered, you know, when that went, thought it was a nice work, but they brought in 500,000 taxable dollars to the county. But because we had mineral lease money, we're able to, from the active mines at the time, we're able to supplement that, so the residents didn't feel it. It would go under 2013, they didn't feel it in 2014, because we used soft money, that's what mineral lease money was, to pad that budget, so it didn't, we're not feeling that burden until 2023, where we really felt the hit of losing that power plant from 2013. 10 years later, the full brunt of what we lost.
So now all of us are appealing that. And I went to the commissioner, and I said, we all knew that the auditor, the assessor.
Oh my God, he mixes them up.
Was basically screwed up. And I told Larry, why go through all of this that we're going through now and have everybody trying to reset the clock with the county? And let's just go back to the 23 rates. The law won't let us. So instead of going back to 23, we took all of these increases, and now we all have to go out and try to justify them. I have a court date in August, believe it or not.
Me too. Me too.
So Dave,
I have the number for you.
okay, let me just say my thought before my thought's gone. Okay. Okay, so it's taking us the $515,618 to balance this budget. You just showed us how much we still have in our savings account, which was 568,000, yeah, something like that. And that's all we have. So what happens 2 years from now, when we don't even have, like I brought up, this amount that's taking to balance this budget, and I've gone through this budget and I don't really see anything out of the ordinary. And what are we gonna do 2 years from now when we don't have any of this savings to balance the budget?
Something's gotta give.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is this is not sustainable.
Right.
Right.
That's
We're on a
exactly-
path that is not sustainable.
That's exactly what we're at.
We can't do it.
But the level of expenditures related to the level of revenues coming into the city will not be sustainable. We're not.
We can't do it.
And also remember that we have that $600,000 sitting there for Class C roads, but we're gonna be spending part of that. So that won't be as big either.
No, but that's not, we can't use that for
If
anything.
we have a road disaster,
Right.
Maybe
culvert washout and
new
stuff like
business.
that.
New business?
But we're gonna be eating away at that a little bit.
New business.
But it keeps getting replenished. We do all right.
So
That
Gary,
keeps coming.
so Gary has the numbers for us, and this, I hope, will help us to see, because why I'm so concerned over this budget with the wages. Because once we pass that budget with the wages, that goes on.
It'll be at least that.
I don't give you permission to film me, so you.
Excuse me? Excuse,
So what amount is it?
a public meeting.
And I've done this fast.
I don't give you permission to
I'm
film me, so
giving
you
you this
just.
great salt, but, it looks to be $82,000.
I'm not really sure it's a public meeting.
$734 increase in total. And then, on top of that, so 48,116 is the police and 34,680 is the rest.
And that's on top of what their,
That's the increase, that's the
just the
increase that goes
increase.
for their wage. Now, understand that that's not the retirement on top of that.
That I've never seen before.
The health insurance is going to have an effect. It is what it is. It doesn't matter what the wage is. You can be making minimum wage if you're full-time and are eligible to get the health insurance, you can get more health insurance than the wage.
right.
But the additional factor here would be also the retirement. So the retirement is a function of the wage as a percentage of the state tax we're going to pay.
So the more that we increase the wages, the more it increases what we pay for their retirement.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's determined by the state.
Yep. We don't have to
That I've
hold
never
that.
seen before. I've never seen that before.
So,
Okay, the questions are answered, I guess? No one else?
someone, can I ask a question then?
Yeah.
So, if this isn't sustainable, then we had more input from the citizens what they want, what we make cut. It's not the same, if we get one back, we need to have another meeting, a work session, where we all sit down, and we say, where do we cut? If it's not sustainable, it's not sustainable, we gotta do something. So, like I said, I wish we had more input from the citizens to say, well, what part do you wanna cut? I mean, there's some obvious things, you know, maybe the wages that you wanna look at, we've been discussing. Is it important enough to get rid of the generator? You know, we have grant money on some of it, but not everything. It's, what other things we look at, and we have to say, well, what can we cut? What are we going to cut?
We have 5,000 in grant money for the generator versus 50,000 if we put in the budget to do it.
And we can use that 5,000 on the one.
Yeah, we can use that on the one that, because that's the police, that's one.
That's a good deal.
So we can maybe do that, but again, this is me talking, and it needs to be you to decide that, instead of me just coming to you and saying, oh, this is what I want you to do. Like I said, I really wish we had more input for what the citizens want to see, and what do they feel like we can cut, and what do they say, well, you know, we need 21,000 more in fertilizer to make the parks. Is it worth having the parks look as good as they do? That's, I don't live here. That's your guys' decision.
Those are small numbers.
But these are small numbers.
Yeah.
I've fooled with this stuff for years.
Getting
they made
several hundred
changes like
thousand
this.
out of this.
And got nowhere. And then we find out, ended up, employees had to go. Manpower. That's where the money's all at.
Because this is double what we've ever had to move before to make it up. And that worries me. And believe me, I wish I could say, well, I'm not gonna worry about it. But that's what we were elected to do here. And it's hard because like I said right at first, our employees are some of the best. And I wish we had the money to say, oh, we can just pay them. And I understand what Jessica was saying, that they could go any place. But what do? Price ourselves out of the market totally so that we don't have a city? So we don't have a town?
Barbara, we were just talking back and forth a little while ago. Do you think revenue is gonna change? I don't think so.
If anything, it's gonna go down.
It is going down.
ECBC.
Had a guy come in today and we lost another $6,000 today. So it's slowly going down. The
The
revenue.
property tax has gone down, we looked at that, and it's gone down. And just remember, a couple of years ago, we had to give, calculated, whatever. We had to give back around $200,000 back to the county. In Calgary.
If we have a hit like that this year.
That was money that's lost from the centrally assessed.
Yes, yes.
So they go and argue with the state, they
Right.
come to the county, but argue and get it lowered, and then they pay their taxes, they were charged. But then the state comes back and says, okay, we lowered their value to this amount, and you gotta pay back what we've given you. So every.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah, so the county plus the school district, everybody had to.
Yeah, everybody had to pay back.
Portion,
Yeah.
because the state tax commission was over that, granted them.
Yeah, there's nothing, we couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I think we're back. So I don't know what you want to do.
Carolyn.
Carolyn Veda, and your calculations, how much was the merit or whatever?
I just
you
did
want?
it in total.
Huh?
I just did it in total,
You just did it in total?
yeah. I mean, I
Because
can-
that would be interesting, because the merit increases were quite significant on some of the.
That's where, I don't wanna speak for the council. But if you're gonna make an adjustment, that's usually where that might be versus the COLA.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can move the COLA from 3% to 2.5, that will only be $5,000-6,000. That won't be a whole lot. It's the market increases is where you're probably going to have to. That's just my suggestion. It's up to you.
You know, you look at that, where we live, that happens all the time. Karen was the CEO of the Garden Medical. You lose people. People are always trying to get people to go. I left here, I didn't leave here, but I moved my work position from here down the road. Coal miners are always in big demand. People are trying to get you to go. Police officers, PAs, medical staff. That's part of just where we live. That happens all the time, and it's not going to change. We're a training ground for a lot of people. That's a simple fact. So, I don't know what the answer is, but that happens. So you could get offered a lot of money, but when I looked at it, I actually looked at exposure on the road. I looked at a lot of different things before I did it. It's, you know, that's something that an individual has to make. Whether or not it's worth it, I don't know, you have to decide.
Yes, Gary. My turn?
Well, it's just, where do you want to go from here?
I'm stuck between a rock
I
and a hard
mean,
place.
we've had a lot of discussion, but that's a great.
We do that quite a bit.
But where
So
do we
close
go?
this public hearing and then.
You wanna change wages within the budget and not go back to the, let's just do it one time? If that's what you, the way you're heading?
I think there needs to be a whole meeting where we discuss going down all sorts of things. Are we doing the animal control shelter for 2,000? Are we doing 1,000? Fertilizer, are we doing, go down it, line, you know, and take the time to go down it. Because it's gonna be, this is my opinion, from what I'm seeing, the trend of our financials. And obviously our expenses are going up just because of normal operating costs are going up. Because everybody, you can tell that just by going, everybody's budget, you know, home budget, it's just harder and harder. Eventually, we're getting to the point now to where our revenue is gonna match. So where are we gonna go with that? Because if you project this out in 5 years, we don't have any money. Most likely. I mean, I haven't done it, that's a, you know,
We'll
a
have to
guess.
close the town down.
But, so, we've got to do something. And frankly, the only revenues in the general fund are basically sales tax, which we don't have any control over.
The money we have coming in from the ambulance.
Yeah, and that goes a lot towards that budget. And, you know, the grant that we get, that's great. And we have property tax.
I thought we didn't get money from property tax.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We get some, so.
Oh, you do?
If you looked at your property tax statement, it shows you all the entities that add up to your property tax. The school district usually is one of the higher ones. And then you go down all these, and it's surprising to me when I look at mine, is how many people are taxing you. But there, you know, it's just the city portion. There is a portion that the city does get. And what we would do is raise that portion and that money would come directly to the city and it wouldn't go to anybody else. So like when the school district raises theirs, that money that is increased in your property tax goes directly to the school district. We would raise it for our portion of it.
I think years ago, we raised that, we're the highest mill levy that we can raise it.
In fact, when I met with one of the assessors, they said we have the highest property tax in East Carpet.
So I don't know that we can raise that.
They're shaking his head back there, he knows.
No, I know it's the highest, and what the mayor was saying was that, even though all of our property taxes have increased, we haven't gained any additional money from those increases, because it was just shifted from the centrally assessed to the locals. The only way to get that to go up would be to do a tax increase. My little point talking about the mineral lease money. The mineral lease money is very similar to your tippage fees. And if you wanna just learn a lesson from Carbon County, again, I'm new, but we can learn from history. If we were banking on that money, and that's not a good thing, because it can dry up any day, and you're left holding the bill. So that's why nowadays, we refer to all mineral lease money as soft money. It's here today, but it might be gone tomorrow, so we're more careful about what we commit to in the future for it, so we don't get ourselves in the same problem as has happened in the past.
The loss of that would make a big difference. Oh.
I guess maybe a suggestion going forward, if you guys are gonna have a meeting, it's hard to make it sound like people are expendable, but as the mayor was saying, sometimes you lose people. But I think the people that are here have a love for this community. We've got roots here. I've been a nurse for almost 10 years, and over that 10 years, I've had 3 raises. Never once even close to what any of these raises have been for these city employees, and so.
I gotta switch phones, yo.
I mean, what would be the harm? Yeah, there's a risk you're gonna lose people, but maybe letting it ride and say, look, you got a pretty significant increase the last time we did this. It just may not be feasible this time. And it just kind of goes back to, if you have the heart, and you're doing it for the right reasons. Because I think no matter what industry you go into, where you live, you always feel like you're never paid what you're worth, and that's just kind of the way of the world right now. But I don't know, I guess the suggestion would be, maybe think about if you let the raises just ride for this year, and if you're talking about the merit raises or things like that, maybe reevaluate what the criteria for those are. I'll make sure that people are truly earning those raises.
But I think that it needs to go further than that. That's only gonna help us get this budget about 50,000, 48,000 something. And we need to make this sustainable for moving forward. And it's gonna be,
big
yeah,
moves.
it's gonna
Big
take,
moves.
so I think we need to start scheduling, because this should have been done by the end of June. And realistically, it has to be done by the end of June to be submitted to the state, right?
Correct.
So we need to.
Unless we're gonna go into truth and taxation, but I think you're a little late on applying that.
So we need to set up some work meetings like ASAP.
Yep.
And go from there and make them public meetings so that the people can say, hey, we need to do this. And because believe me, I didn't want to bring this up. I hate to be the bad guy. Chuck calls me the troublemaker. But man, the more sleep that I lost over this, the more I realized, you know what, I was born here, and I hope I'm gonna die here. But if we don't have any infrastructure in this town, what does it matter what the people are gonna be making? So, we need to start having some minutes and.
Jeff Palmer.